How dare you sit there and expect me to clean the house?
What? But my husband employed you as a maid.
Because he's stupid. Get your ass up and clean the whole place.
My wife paused what she was busy with and quietly began cleaning the house while my mom and the maid conversed in the living room. After my wife was done cleaning, they asked her to also prepare food for them, which they abandoned after she served them. Hello there. My name is Sam, and I'm 30 years old. I've been married to my wife, Susan, for nearly 2 years, but a few months back, things weren't going so smoothly. I will explain. I met Susan at a cafe. I'm a huge coffee lover. Although I'm great at preparing it myself, I love to visit cafes to get enough of the cozy scent. On the day I met Susan, I decided to request a special type of coffee. We were both at the counter.
Wow, you know it? I thought I was the only one who bought it here.
Oh, sorry to disappoint you, but you might have to share with me.
Oh, it's fine. To know that, you must be deeply into coffee.
Yes, I am. I bet you are too. You're right. After we got our coffee, we both went to a table together where we discussed more. I found her to be very interesting. Not only coffee, we also shared many similar interests. We became friends from there. On the day I took her to introduce her to my mom, she made her feel so uncomfortable.
I hope you're not one of those career ladies.
I am, ma'am. I'm a lawyer by profession. Is there a problem?
Yes, you have to stop your job before marrying my son.
What? Why, Mother?
A woman isn't meant to work. She has to stay home, birth children, and look after them.
I felt embarrassed by my mom's behavior. Angrily, I took Susan and we left the house. I'm sorry for my mom's behavior. Ignore her words, please.
It's fine, Sam. I know her mentality is wrong. I'm not bothered.
I was relieved. We went ahead with the wedding preparation, and our wedding turned out to be a grand and enjoyable one. However, 1 week after we returned from our honeymoon, my mom suddenly showed up at our house. Mother, what are you doing here?
I've sold my house to pay up debts, so I'm going to be living with you both.
What? That's going to make my wife uncomfortable. We're newlyweds, for God's sake. My wife, hearing the noise, walked out of the room and came to us. She greeted my mom politely, but was ignored.
What's wrong, honey?
Mom has sold her house and wants to live with us permanently. Susan let out a heavy sigh of frustration.
It's fine, honey. She has nowhere else to go. Let her in. We'll manage.
Hearing that, my mom brushed off Susan and walked in.
So, if she hadn't permitted you, you wouldn't let me in. I'm ashamed to call you my son. You should have been born a woman or never even have been born.
Susan asked me to ignore her and walked me to my room. From then on, my home had never been peaceful. Every day, I would return home to meet my wife in tears. And every time I met her crying, my mom was the reason.
Mother told me to go kill myself. She brought me a knife and asked me to stab myself for choosing to be a career woman instead of a housewife.
Once, I returned home to meet my wife with a broken arm and ankle.
Mother pushed me down the stairs on my way to the hearing I had today. I arrived late because I had to visit the hospital to get treated and got disciplined.
I was boiling with rage. I wanted to go confront my mother, but Susan stopped me. She didn't want me fighting my mom over her. I let it slide. 2 weeks later, Susan had an important case at the court. I knew she'd be so stressed when she got back, so I decided to take a permission to be absent from work that day. Luckily, it was granted. Early that morning, I woke up and prepared breakfast for my wife. While at it, my mom walked into the kitchen.
What? You're cooking for a woman? I can't believe this.
There's nothing wrong with this, Mother. I used to cook for you.
That's different, you moron. I'm your mother, and that woman is only just your wife.
Well, I love and care for her too. I'm going to cook for my wife and do everything to make her happy, okay? My wife ran into the kitchen.
What's happening?
Get lost, you fool. Don't you dare meddle in my son and I discussing.
Talk to my wife respectfully, Mother. Susan quickly held me and calmed me down. She tried to finish up the breakfast, but I refused. Right in front of my raging mother, I finished it up and served my wife. Afterward, she left. Before she returned home, I got dinner ready, still against my mother's wish. A week later, I had to travel urgently. My mother got the chance to pour out all her aggression on my wife.
Hey, idiot! Drop me off at the spa before going to meet your criminals.
They're humans, Mother. You shouldn't talk down on them like that. Also, I can't drop you off, I'm sorry. I have to be at the court in 10 minutes.
Do I look like I care about what you just spilled out? You're either dropping me off at the spa first or stay home all day.
But Mother, the spa is an hour's drive away from here. I can't take you and you know that. Please let me take you tomorrow.
No! You're either taking me today or we're both gonna stay at home. And that's final.
True to her words, my mom didn't let Susan leave the house. Luckily, she had the key to a secret exit. My wife had to leave from there. As if that wasn't enough, while I was still away, she brought her friend home to ridicule my wife.
Can you imagine? She put her career over her marriage.
No, Mother. I value my marriage, but I can't leave my job. Sam wants me to work, too.
No, he doesn't. You forced my son to agree.
How could you let Sam get married to a woman like her? My son always obeys me.
I wish my son was like yours. Sam stopped listening to me ever since he got married to this stupid lady.
Can she even do any household chores? She looks so weak.
Susan surely did the chores whenever I was away, and when we're both home, we do it together. That day, my mom and her friend put her through so much stress. They made her clean the whole house, and when she was done, they walked around the house with shoes they'd intentionally gotten dirty. My wife had to clean the whole place 4 times. As if that wasn't enough, my mom asked her to prepare some food for them to prove she was a good housewife. However, after serving the meal to them, both women complained that it wasn't delicious and emptied their bowls on Susan's body. The next day, my mom spilled a cup of steaming hot coffee on my wife's legs and pretended that it was an accident. After that, she hid Susan's car keys to stop her from attending an important court hearing where she was the lawyer of the accused. When she finally managed to get to the court by public transport, she realized that some of the documents containing the evidence of her client being truthful had disappeared. She burst into tears right there, knowing it was my mom who did it. Luckily, they permitted her to rush back home to get them. She met the documents soaked in water, but fortunately, they weren't torn. She took them to the court like that. When I returned home and my wife informed me, I was disappointed. I confronted my mother, and her reply was a shock to me.
I was a full-time housewife, she should be too. I didn't get an education, but I'm thriving in my son's house. She doesn't need a job. Once she drops her career and forgets about it, I'll see her as my daughter-in-law.
She's my wife, Mother. I love that she's a career woman. No matter how many times I tried to warn her to stop abusing my wife, she refused to listen. One day, I returned home to meet her and her friend beating my wife up. I quickly stepped in and pulled her away. How dare you both? What has she done to you? You're seriously getting on my nerves, Mother.
I feel bad for your mother having a weak son like you. How could you talk back at your mother over a woman you barely met 3 years ago?
I'm sorry, but you've got to shut up. Your son got married to a black woman against your wish, you racist. How dare you talk down on me? This is the last time I'm warning you both. Let my wife and I be. And I could see how shocked they were at my outburst, but I didn't care. My work needed me to move to Germany in 2 months. Susan had always told me about how she wanted to quit being a lawyer to owning a cafe, so I was planning to make that a reality for her. I needed to travel once more to complete the cafe, but I couldn't leave Susan alone with my mom. So I had a temporary maid come over. She was an elderly woman, so I thought she'd be occupied with my mom, and that would make her forget about Susan. However, it seemed like I'd made a mistake.
How dare you sit there and expect me to clean the house?
What? But my husband employed you as a maid.
Because he's stupid. Get your ass up and clean the whole place.
My wife paused what she was busy with and quietly began cleaning the house while my mom and the maid conversed in the living room. After my wife was done cleaning, they asked her to also prepare food for them, which they abandoned after she served them. When I returned home, my wife told me everything in tears. She was tired and was requesting me to talk to my mom. I'd had enough. Right there, first thing I did was kick the maid out of the house with $0. Then I told my wife my next plan. I pleaded with her to endure my mother's behavior for 1 more month. She agreed. One day, a month later, Susan and I wheeled out our boxes. My mom was surprised seeing us.
Where are you both off to?
My wife and I are leaving to start our lives afresh in another country. You know, Mother, I decided to be quiet because I respect you, but I need to make you realize something. I recall how you and Father used to fight regularly before he died. You were a dirty, lazy, and irresponsible wife who only wanted to sit home all day, not doing anything. Father was never in support of you being a housewife, and when he died, you made me get a job at my young age so as to feed you. My wife will never be like you. She's a responsible woman who loves to work and support her family. She's also been kind enough to take in all of your abuse. I wanted you to suffer in jail, but she begged on your behalf. This house has been sold, alongside everything in it. You have only 3 days to leave. In case you haven't heard, your friend's son has abandoned his mother for being racist toward his wife. You could find her and roam on the streets with her. From today, you're no more my mother. I hope you don't take this mentality of yours into your next life. Bye. She cried and begged us, but we left. She had never worked before. Life would be hard for her, but do I care? Of course not. My wife and I are happy and at peace, and that's all that matters. Right? My mom has been sending me messages begging me to forgive her. She explained to me how she now works in a warehouse and she hates her job because she carries packages and her back hurts, but I didn't reply. Do you think I was harsh towards her? Leave a comment down below.